I have been playing music since I was 6 years old. I started with classical piano, followed by bass and guitar. Needless to say, my intense interest in music determined the kind of people I surrounded myself with. Since I was born in Argentina and came to the States after high school, I left a good bunch of musicians back there. Good friends of mine. For a good couple of years, the myth of Absolom took shape among us. Partially influenced by heavy/death metal music, and genius intellects such as E.A. Poe and H.P. Lovecraft, we created the entity Absolom, a borrowed, distorted name. The whole idea was to reach Absolom by means of jamming, as it was our belief that this entity could be brought among us with a musical search. Last New Year's, 2001-2002, I had the chance to go on vacation to Argentina. As soon as I let them know that I was coming over, they started preparing a big party for New Year's Eve. I brought a couple of bottles of DXM, Agent Lemon, and some mushrooms. My friend Max brought a bottle of GHB in liquid form. We arrived at the party at my friend's loft in the harbor area of Buenos Aires at around 1900 hours, 7 p.m. There were a lot of hugs and happiness as I reunited with my musical friends and I introduced my American friend Max to them. The celebrations got started immediately with a good monster bong round with 50 hydro 50 hash. The setting was fantastic and everybody was having a great time. My friend Jay, the host, started serving chilled sangria for everyone. We talked while people kept arriving and the crowd got bigger. This of course was no problem since this loft is huge. At around 9 p.m., after 2.5 glasses of sangria and a couple of more bowls, my friend L invited us with a nice hit of double-stacked pink ecstasy, tested as MDMA. Around 15 minutes after poppin', Max proposed that we engaged in robaflippin', MDMA plus DXM. After measuring our doses carefully according to body weight, we were shooting for a middle-second plateau. We ingested the Agent Lemon and proceeded to smoke another bowl in order to ease our anxiety. After more or less half an hour, that is T plus 230 from baseline, and around 30 minutes after taking the MDMA and 15 minutes after the DXM, I started feeling the beginning of the trip. All the lights were expanded and the colors were brutally vivid. I usually feel these on DXM much more than on ecstasy. After an hour of hitting the X, I started feeling the vacuum sensation I always get on DXM, a lack of perception of one's insides or body. I became very introverted but without feeling bad at all, just a reflective state of contemplation. D plus 3 o'clock, I found myself in a corner watching people interact with each other. I started feeling more connected with them and I was glad that everybody was having a great time. Suddenly my friend L came over and said that he wanted to walk. I joined him. It was 10 p.m, lights in the harbor were insane. Everything was slightly undulating and my mind was at total peace. As we walked more I felt extremely privileged to be where I was and with the people I was with. We stared at nature for a while, and at the city skyline. In Argentina there is always an abundance of firecrackers and fireworks during the holidays. Every time I heard one of these I saw a cloud of ever-evolving colors that covered my field of vision and then gradually vanished. It was very powerful when these explosions followed each other consecutively, blues followed by greens followed by reds, you get the idea. D plus 4:30, Elle and I head back to the loft and rejoin the party. It was now 11:30 p.m. and we wanted to receive the new year with the rest of the crowd. As the coming of the new year approached, I found my friend Max, who was hooking up with a beautiful blue-eyed blonde. He gave me a bottle of champagne laced with GHB and told me to be careful and spread it around while warning everyone of its contents. He had written plus GHB with a magic marker on the label. I recommend that firmly. The Santana Live album playing in the background was making me float and move softly and gracefully. I drank about 8 ounces worth of the champagne plus GHB until the countdown started. At the count of 0 Happy New Year! A smoke machine was turned on and several colored lights and even a strobe were put to work in conjunction with the Superman theme by John Williams. I felt as I had drifted unintentionally into another dimension. Sound became muted, opaque, as it happened to me before on DXM very high second plateau doses or low third plateau doses, 7.5 to 8 mg/kg. I felt intense happiness and I understood the mechanics of smoke, forgot now, sorry. D plus 6 o'clock, I realized that GHB has seriously interfered with the enjoyment of my robaflipping. My vision is distorted and I'm having trouble concentrating and communicating. I feel drained and exhausted and I'm deeply concerned about what's to come. My friend Jay approaches me with a bowl of marijuana and takes me out of the loft for another walk around the harbor. The fresh air brings a little life to my body and after around 15 minutes of walking I puke violently. I stay puking/dry heaving for a little while. The alcohol/GHB purge immediately pays off and I feel much better. Me and Jay smoke a bowl and relax looking at the River Plate, the widest river in the world. At this point I am deeply relaxed and rather tired. I feel now like in a normal second plateau trip but a little more drained. It's almost 2 a.m. when we head back to the loft. D+7 o'clock, a couple of people clap their hands when they see me come back in, which lifts my mood a little bit. After sitting around for a little while my friend Jay gives a small speech thanking everyone for coming and announces he has a surprise. He walks over to an unlit area, turns on a small light and moves a curtain-type separation he has. Behind it was a circle of cushions and several instruments laying around. There was 2 guitars, several tambourines and bongos, a flute, a violin and an upright piano. The acoustic guitars were even plugged to nice amps. That's when Jay announced that we were going to attempt to find Absolom again. D+7:30, people slowly moved and sat in the circle. There was around 30 people left, others had crashed or left to attend other parties. Candles were lit and the idea was to figure out the musical way to bring Absolom into our celebration. The basic idea behind this is of course to unite musically. We were not expecting an entity to actually materialize in the middle of us, but it was more like we were to unite musically to the point of becoming the entity ourselves, a unity. Before starting the actual jam, I snorted 2 lines of cocaine in order to bring myself up, and increase my concentration. I had to give myself 15 minutes before I was able to pull myself together. Let the music begin. D+9 o'clock, I remember looking at the time while sitting silently. The rest of the group was indulged in a clapping plus vocal plus percussive moment that had no room for the piano or guitar, which are my instruments of preference. It was around 4 a.m. I ate half an eighth of shrooms a very beautiful girl gave me, and smoked a 50-50 dro/hash bowl to await the onset. I got really involved with the rhythmic quality of the moment, and I was still feeling the effects of the substances I had consumed earlier. There was an absolute sense of unity now. The music we were listening to was a unity that was only possible with this group of people on this day. It was us, united, that were achieving this wonderful concentration. Somebody came in with the flute, not a metal one, but the wooden ones. The sound was bizarre. It was as if this person, the instrument's owner as I later found out, was trying to chase after a train by using a bicycle. D+10 o'clock, the flute was now totally interwoven with the percussion. My closed-eye hallucinations were incredible. They were all group-related, groups of dots, groups of lights, groups of people. My thoughts dwelled in the group theme as well. How every individual was supposed to fill a gap and function in their own little role fundamental in order for the total to work. Suddenly I came across the question, if everyone is supposed to play a part, what is mine? I remember that prior to the shrooms I had attempted to fill in with guitars and piano, but without feeling it. Abruptly I felt an energy ray blast through my body. I understood the meaning of my meeting with these people, and what our function in general was. I understood how we always end up giving into our capricious ego and forget that we only exist for others and because of others. I felt united and emphatic with everyone, but I was calm. I got up and sat on the piano. As soon as I hit the first intense and rhythmic chords my spine shuddered. I felt a couple of wows and oohs as I incorporated my music into the groups. I was searching for my part in the whole, and I was getting there. The only way to describe this music is as maybe tribal/jazzy. Everybody was feeling the same thing. As comparisons during the next day cleared, there was an objective to be reached, and when everybody played their part to perfection we would be able to see the product. The feeling was like a perpetual roller coaster that runs in a straight line, but the angle of the drop becomes sharper and sharper as people realize their role. After what seemed like a short and monstrous ride we all felt overwhelmed at the sight of the product that surfaced. And the music stopped in a matter of 4 seconds, 20 people playing stopping all within a 4 seconds margin without any cues. There was a brief silence and then we all applauded ourselves and hugged for a couple of minutes. It was now 5:30 in the morning. D+11:30, it was now almost broad daylight, summer in Argentina during New Year's. The sunrise was the most beautiful ever. There was clear traces and insane colors everywhere. The hallucinated ones competed with the real ones. It was appalling. I sat there with Jay for a couple of hours just talking about our friendship and the night that had just passed. Calmly I began to feel tired. D+1900 hours to 7 a.m., I went to bed. I woke up around 4:30 p.m. but was only able to leave bed half an hour later. I felt like a stampede of buffalo had just run me over. But my mind was very happy and content. I found it was severely difficult to walk, my leg muscles hurt badly. This is something that happens to me often when I do shrooms. But it was obviously grotesquely worse this time. I puked once more around noon, but felt pretty good after that, considering. The of substances was way too much and hence the physical toll was tremendous. The fact of the matter is I stopped doing drugs, except for some weed, but not even hash, altogether for 2 months. I would say I regret doing the GHB and the coke. They definitely served no purpose whatsoever and they definitely did not combine well with the rest. The robo-flippin' was very interesting, had done it before, but I would say it's a little short-lived if you want to party all night. It drained a lot of energy out of me and when I added the GHB it definitely short-circuited. I didn't mention this during the detailed account because the experience was very valuable to me as a whole, but there were 2 points during the night that I felt really horrible, like I was losing control. The fact of the matter is that if I hadn't done all these substances separately as much as I have I would have lost it for sure, and it was very close regardless. The first time was when I puked, obviously. I was retching very violently and since my mind was altered I thought I was actually convulsing for a second. I even had a set of myself convulsing and snapping my spine, not pretty at all. Luckily I had the right mindset and I was able to control myself. The second time was after the coke. I felt very dizzy and the room was spinning and I thought I had maybe overdosed or inhaled something else instead, a la Pulp Fiction, although I knew this wasn't anything else at all, but the mind altering played a big part in this momentary delusion. I couldn't play the piano at all, and I sat down on a cushion ready to puke and freak out. This time, a very gentle person talked to me softly and took care of me until I got a grip and was able to understand what was going on. I'm grateful regardless of the short-lived effect that insufflated cocaine has, because if I had to stay like that for another 45 minutes I would have definitely lost it. It was without a doubt an incredible experience nonetheless. I am now much more tolerant to others and I tend to serve others generously because I understood the meaning of our unity. I don't think all of these substances were necessary to achieve this glorious state of unity and clarity, that's just the way the night worked out. This experience reminded me how important setting and people around you are when experimenting. It was these factors that prevented things from getting very ugly. I have seriously achieved a new outlook on substances in general, and I now know I will rarely be combining anymore, with the exception of candy flipping, the magic. The most important thing by far was my realization that we are all of us in this ride called life together, and the mentality and attitude you project is given back to you. That night we found unity and brotherhood. I finally realized what it was that we were looking for all this time. We found Absolom.